Everything's from stadiums to alumni teams. You don't want to miss this week's episode of the Indy Ball Report Podcast. All right, we're back. Episode number 213 of the Indy Ball Report Podcast. I'm Nick, he's Will. And we have another week of a bunch of kind of little miscellaneous stories, column A stuff, column B stuff. They're able to kind of group together into 3 or 4 main categories. So we'll go over all of that in due time. But that's what we have to present for you this week.
Minor league season getting underway this week too, so season's right around the corner.
Exactly. Yeah. When this comes out, we're only going to be about 20 days away from Atlantic League opening day?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah. So, we'll have a preview for you soon enough. And also next week, we're going to have an interview too, but we'll tell you more about that later on. So we are reaching the end of the off season, but before that, we do have stuff to discuss, and that stuff is the 25th anniversary team. We have another 2 members of that for the Atlantic League, and these are 2 that I think more of our general base is going to remember. Guys that played in Somerset, played in Long Island, played in Newark. So, we'll open up with the 11th member of the team, and that is Victor Rodriguez. He has been named to the team, our 2004 Somerset Patriot, a Newark Bear in 06 and 07, a Long Island Duck in 2009, and a Bridgeport/York player for 2010. He won the MVP twice. Technically, one was a co-MVP, but still, I can vote to count that as a 1 MVP. That is the most MVP awards in Atlantic League history. Only player with multiple MVP awards, as you could probably guess from that statement. The all-time career batting average leader at a career .343 average, a 2-time postseason All-Star, a 2014 All-Star, just normal All-Star as an All-Star game, and as we mentioned, a 2-time Atlantic League champion in 07 with the Bears and 2010 with the York Revolution. He is the latest addition to the team, and I believe the first shortstop on the team as well.
Yeah, Rodriguez is a no-brainer. Just because, Nick, you mentioned all the accolades, and I think really one of the best hitters that this league has ever seen, longevity-wise, and as far as guys who have played multiple seasons in the Atlantic League, and just a guy who consistently was able to get on base no matter what, and the fact that the only player in league history to win multiple MVP awards, I think that pretty much speaks for itself in the sense that he was really one of the best hitters that the league has ever seen, and the all-time leader in batting average kind of makes you a no-brainer for a top 25 list anyway. But yeah, Rodriguez is an excellent player. Played with quite a few Atlantic League teams, so different fan bases can say that they got a chance to watch him on their team. So a guy that truly made his mark on the Atlantic League during his time playing, and statistically just an absolute no doubter for this list, I think.
Oh, yeah, the paper list of accolades certainly add up there. This is a guy that dominated essentially every season he played, and he was a dominant player, an effective player. He may not have been here the longest, only, I believe, about 5 seasons he played in the Atlantic League, but he was always a productive player, and that is definitely worthy of note. Also, like we've been saying, the list of awards, the 2-time champion, 2-time MVP, all-time leaders and stats, it just makes sense here. He's a guy that I think a lot of people also remember. I know I have his baseball cards somewhere in the giant tub of baseball cards I have under my bed. So it is definitely a welcome addition. And we go from one Rodriguez to another Rodriguez. So I definitely like the addition. Like you said, Will, he meets just about every box you could possibly put in front of him. He checks all of them. And on that note, there is a second guy who was named yesterday, meaning Thursday, and that's the 12th member of the team, John Brownell. He is probably best known for his many years in Long Island, 2012 to 2018, and then a short stint in High Point in 2019. So this is one of the first guys, I think, if not the first guy, that was actually covered on this show at some point that is on this team as well. In any event, Brownell was the 2015 Pitcher of the Year. He is also the all-time career playoff wins, complete games record holder, 5 playoff wins, 24 complete games. He is tied for most in shutouts, which was 5. I thought that was kind of surprisingly low, but I guess if you have to throw complete games to get credit for a shutout, then it does make sense why it would be that, which then makes it kind of impressive that about 20% of his complete games were shutouts. That's really quite impressive. In any event, he is third all-time in wins with 67 and third all-time in innings pitched with just over 1,025 innings. There is also one other accolade besides being a 2012 ALPB champion. That is his second all-time in strikeouts with 770 strikeouts in the Atlantic League. A very distinguished career, a long career, and one where it is full of a lot of accolades.
Yeah, when you talk about, guys when you talk about longevity in the Atlantic League and guys who were a perfect fit for this list, I mean, Brownell's right at the top of it. And I almost found it interesting, and I don't remember 100%, but I'm pretty sure Brownell was signed to go back to High Point, I think, in 2020 pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
As well. But it is kind of cool also that, the last start of his career was against the Ducks in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's just a guy that was a frontline ace for the Ducks for a long time. And he's a guy that, he never had the best stuff. He never was a guy who was punching out 8 to 10 batters to start. That's just not who he was. He didn't have overpowering velocity, but what he did do is he had excellent command. Was able to mix up his pitches, keep the hitters off balance, and he was able to get weak contact. And against like these great lineups that he was facing really throughout his Atlantic League career. And there's a big reason why he would continue to be thrown out there and just remarkably consistent is what I mean. A guy who would be putting up, he would go really deep into games, as you mentioned, the complete game stat as well. I mean, there are so few guys in Atlantic League history really that you could say were consistently as starting pitchers posting seasons up around 200 innings. It just doesn't really happen. Especially with a lot of the turnover, and there's guys like Brownell and like Darryl Thompson certainly in that class as well. But I think, and Brownell, of course, pitched till he was 36, and had a really strong stint with High Point to end his career, and of course the playoff start against the Long Island Ducks too, which I'm sure was cool for him to end his career that way. Even though, and I'm pretty sure he was signed in 2020 to go back there before the pandemic kind of screwed things up, and that was, I guess, the end of that. But yeah, absolute no-brainer for this list. Brownell won so many big games for the Ducks. I mean, I know the Ducks fans absolutely love him. And yeah, just a guy that, again, did not have the best stuff, command and mixing speeds and stuff like that, just outsmarting the opposition. And that's what Brownell did. He was just that kind of guy, and pitched, I mean, of course, well into his 30s. Truly was one. And when you talk about like, longevity and cumulative numbers, near the top of most pitching categories in Atlantic League history. So I mean, when you talk about the top 25 greatest players in Atlantic League history, and you whittle that down to however many pitchers, Brownell's got to be mentioned in that group, and I'm glad he was.
Certainly, I mean, he was one of the true tentpole pitchers of the league for essentially his whole tenure there. What kind of surprised me, he really only ever got one shot in affiliated ball. He had one season in the Phillies organization, then he got cut, and then it was just pretty much straight independent league ball. I believe a little bit in the Frontier League, a little bit in the American Association too. I don't recall if there was any like Northern League in there too. I don't think there was, but
there was.
There was? Okay.
Yes. 2010.
Okay, that would do it. So he had a little bit in there beforehand, but yeah, a true independent league pitcher. When you get down to it, the guy has all the stats to back it up, and is truly one of the talented pitchers of the game, without a doubt there. Now, my question would be, would you put him ahead of a Darryl Thompson as far as all-time starters go?
That's a really good question. I would say no.
Okay.
And I think that just because Daryl Thompson, I think was, and again, we're picking straws here, and they're very similar. I think they're very similar profiles, very similar careers. Even though Daryl Thompson is still, pitching, and they're pretty similar. I would say that the best of Daryl Thompson was better than the best of John Brownell, but that's not to take anything away from him. Both have had awesome careers. I think they're pretty similar to compare, but I think that and again, Thompson's still writing his story as well.
Yeah.
But I think that when I come down to it, and a lot of the the numbers are similar, like cumulative wise, I think the best of Daryl Thompson was better than the best of Brownell by just a little bit, but it's really close.
See, that's what gets it for me, is just with Daryl, he's still going, and he doesn't show any signs of deterioration. He doesn't break off any. He's also been the best pitcher in a given year a few more times,
Yeah.
He manages to get through it. That being said, as far as postseason goes, Brownell's probably the better guy, if for no other reason than he's gotten more games. I don't think this is any slight towards Daryl. It's just a matter of being in Southern Maryland. You don't really get a lot of playoff games. And it's just the unfortunate reality. If Daryl Thompson was pitching for, say, Somerset or pitching for Long Island for the bulk of his career, then I think it's a lot more of a runaway in that favor, because you have a bit more support around you. You're in a system which, I don't want to say you're guaranteed a playoff spot. I mean, we saw this past year. That's not true. But, you have pretty good odds. I mean, even in a Lancaster or a York, I feel like they make the postseason and do a lot better than the Blue Crabs do on any kind of given day, right? So, I feel like that's the one thing where it's okay, well, if it's a playoff game, I would rather go with more of a known commodity. That being said, too, it's not exactly a fair thing to grade somebody on. And I'm sure if you gave Daryl the same amount of playoff reps, maybe the numbers aren't identical, but I feel like they're in the same camp too.
Yeah, I think the postseason, and again, that's nothing against Daryl Thompson, but if Daryl Thompson was on a Long Island, a Somerset, a Sugarland,
Sugarland too. Yeah.
There's no doubt about it that he would have the chance to pitch in some really huge games. And I mean, unfortunately, for Daryl Thompson, and I guess it wasn't, and last year wasn't the case, or really the last 2 years where Southern Maryland's been pretty good. But historically, though, it's basically, I mean, of course, Southern Maryland had their championship series appearance in 2015, and then, but then they just had not had much success, or I mean, it's not like they've been terrible, but certainly has not had the brand of Brownell pitching for. I think you could also bring up the other point with Brownell, that hey, he's pitched for a Ducks fan base that's a really diehard fan base, and a guy that is a lot more well known. I hate to say it, but Daryl Thompson pitching in front of mostly empty ballparks in Southern Maryland for a lot of his career. And I think that when it comes to how fans think of it, who aren't as familiar with the numbers and the accolades and the stuff like that, probably more Atlantic League fans probably know John Brownell more than Daryl Thompson. But I think that when it boils down to it, I would probably give the edge to Thompson, but it's close. It's really close, and I think that's whenever Daryl Thompson is done pitching, but I guess in 2028, when he's retired after winning his 7th straight Atlantic League Pitcher of the Year award at age 44, then maybe we could have a different conversation.
I just see it now. The Atlantic League Championship Series, that last at bat, it's going to be like a 50-year-old Daryl Thompson and a 60-year-old Lou Ford just duking it out. I'm looking forward to that, because that's the only way that can end.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, only way it can end.
Yeah, and in fairness to Daryl, too, he's had to pitch on a field that was lit on fire. So that's another handicap working against him.
And it's fair. But I think it's close. It's an interesting discussion, though, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. So, on that note, we will switch over to some staffing news. There's a bunch of hirings, and one actually includes someone from our list of the 25, or I guess of 12 guys so far, and that is Luis Machete Rodriguez. He has been named the pitching coach for the Long Island Ducks. He replaces Nelson Figueroa, who left for a broadcast media job, as stated on the Ducks website. I tried looking to see where Figgy got hired to. I couldn't really find it, at least not with a quicker end of a Google search. I did a couple of them and I couldn't really find much. So, yeah, Figueroa was supposed to come over. He came from Staten Island to Long Island, or I guess back to Long Island. And now he's out and Machete is in.
I will say it is, I guess, interesting, but I guess it makes sense, that you have a catcher being the pitching coach.
Yeah.
I guess it's a little... You could see it being fine. It's just like, I don't know. I've never heard of it before. I guess also, like, you don't know what kind of options they have too with Figueroa leaving at this point. But I don't know. I'm interested to see. I mean, we've talked extensively about Luis Rodriguez. I believe last week when he was on the 25 on the top 25 list for the Atlantic League. But I don't know. It's oftentimes you may find that catchers know more about pitching than pitchers do.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how it goes.
See, what I like about this hiring, because I really do like it, is that you got a guy that was a manager in this league not that long ago, 2018 being his last year with that. And he was a coach before that, granted player coach, yes, but still a coach nonetheless. So you have essentially an extra manager on your staff, a guy that kind of knows what he's doing, and he's a well-known enough guy, especially when he was in Bridgeport, which is just right across the sound from the Ducks. So maybe you could draw some people in from that. I doubt that. That's not really what the goal of this is. It's just, I think it's a really competent signing. I like him as a coach. He did a lot of really good things with that Bridgeport team. A Bridgeport team that should have made the postseason in 2018, but because of the Atlantic League system of we just got to use half champions, they kind of got screwed. And in the end, he didn't get to take that team to the postseason in their last year, which could have been a really nice hurrah. We could have had a River City Rascals type moment before the Rascals did it. So it's a bit disappointing on that front. But overall, I think as a manager, there's enough there that prove that he's a good manager. And if you're a good manager, I got to assume you could be a good support coach, which is essentially what a pitching or a hitting coach is. They're a specialty coach that supports the team as a whole. And it just feels like a really nice addition to the staff. I really do like it. Now, is he going to be better than Figueroa was? I don't know. It's hard to say. But in the end, I don't think it's a bad hiring at all. I really do like it.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so either. It's certainly interesting, and I think a guy who's been around the league for quite a long time, but that managerial experience, I'm sure, also does help, especially, and I know that'll help Wally Backman as well. Not that Wally Backman needs a whole lot of help in managerial wise, but yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting hire. I'm excited to see how he does.
Yeah, absolutely there. And on that note, we will switch to a player coach still in the Atlantic League, and that is Ian McKinney. He has been added to Gastonia as a player coach. This was back in March. This was announced. I didn't see it actually listed on the website until yesterday, but it is dated for March 14th. So I suppose I just missed it, which is my bad that we didn't get to talk about this sooner. But in any case, Ian McKinney, a former Cardinals/Mariners farmhand, got as high as AAA, spent some time in Sioux City in 2018, was with the Honey Hunters last year. So he is kind of a known commodity, I guess. He's being added, so he's going to be playing a little bit. He's going to be coaching the pitchers. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. He seems like a all right pitcher himself, but hey, if they like him and they think he can be a good coach, why not?
Yeah, I can't really speak to how good of a coach he is, but he's a guy who's been around a little bit and pitched in affiliated ball for quite a while. I mean, the one thing in Gastonia last year, he had his struggles for sure.
Yeah.
540 ERA and 14 starts. I don't know. I think that if it's something to bring him back, and to be honest with you, I don't know how picky certain teams can be pitching wise.
Yeah.
So I think that I can't really speak to him as far as how good of a coach he is, but I think that anytime you can get a guy with AA, AAA experience, especially in this era of Atlantic League pitching, I think you got to go for it and do what you got to do to get him in. So I don't know. Yeah, it's him being a player coach is certainly interesting, but he seems okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's also a younger guy. He's under 30, I believe about 28 right now. So it helps to have kind of a younger guy on the staff, I think, maybe just to relate to guys, kind of like know how they came up in, professional baseball on the college level. So that way you can kind of be like, all right, I know you probably did something similar to this. So try doing this. This is how you may want to improve it, or just knowing how to talk and communicate with them, how to build a relationship or a rapport with them. It feels like that's just something nice to have on the staff. And the fact that he can kind of go out there, go through the grind with them, I think maybe helps relate a little bit more. Maybe makes it seem like, okay, he knows the struggle. He's not far removed from it because he's still doing it. So I think that's certainly a positive as well. Like you said, I can't really talk to his coaching abilities either, so it's hard to say more than that, but it's an interesting hire. At the very least, they have a talented arm still on the staff, so even with some struggles last year, he seems like a solid enough player, so we'll watch to see how that goes. And certainly Gastonia, if they could repeat their success from last year, would result in a pretty solid year, given the results of being one of, if not the best team in the Atlantic League last year.
That's true.
So that's certainly a positive there. On that note, we go to the last of the coaching hirings. This was in the Pioneer League. This is over in Glacier with the Ridge Rangers. And this is Michael.
The what?
I mean, aren't they the Ridge Rangers?
The Range Riders.
Range Rider. I knew. See, I always get them confused because I just see RR. And the fact that their name's Glacier, it messes me up.
Like, at least get one of them right. At least get one of the names right.
I'm getting flamed on my own show. This is horrific. This is horrific. My God. Well, fine. I'm just going to refer to them as Glacier from now on because it's going to work easier. And technically, I did get one right. I got the name of the place right.
Okay, that doesn't count.
All right, well, fine then. We'll take it out with Michael McDonald, his new baseball analytics and performance science guy. He's going to oversee all the data tracking, performance tracking. So he's going to collect data. He's going to track it all. It's at Flathead Field, which is the lone ballpark in the league with Trackman and Yakutech. He's got a bunch of other accolades. It's listed in the release. It's a technical coordinator at Chanticleer's Baseball. So I assume that meant Coastal Carolina because he's also worked at Coastal Carolina in the past. So I'll assume it's the same, thing. It could be different. I don't exactly know. All I know is he worked in the Mexican League. He worked at AAA. It has actual bench coach and hitting coach experience, granted, as an intern or interim coach, granted, but still, nonetheless, counts. And overall, he has a pretty robust resume. I really do like it. I'm kind of surprised he's on the Pioneer League with this kind of a seemingly decently built resume, but hey, good for him. So he's in Glacier because that's what we're going to call it from now on, or at least what I'm going to call it.
I think that I agree. I think the resume is extremely extensive. I mean, a guy who's interim or not, doesn't really matter. It was like a hitting coach in AAA. Like, that's freaking awesome. And
a bench coach at it was in Tijuana, right?
In the for the Tijuana Toros. So and that's it, and which is a really good team down there. I mean, they're usually in the thick of it every year. But I don't know. Like, his resume is awesome. So I think anytime you have a guy like that who's advising based on analytics, maybe not even analytics too, just being as another voice and another opinion in the room too, I think it seems like a terrific hire. Honestly, I agree with you, Nick. I'm a little surprised that the Frontier League is where he currently where he ended up, because
Pioneer League, but yeah.
What did I say?
Frontier.
Mother. All right.
Now we both messed up in this segment. Yep. Now we're back to even.
Tough. So in the Pioneer League, I'm kind of surprised that's where he ended up. So I think it's an excellent hire for sure.
Yeah, I really do like it. Like you said, I'm kind of surprised he's not in a higher league like a Frontier or like really an American Association or Atlantic League. I mean, the Atlantic League.
Sure, that's the point I was making.
Yeah,
when misspoke,
Yeah, that's it. But like I'm kind of surprised because the Atlantic League has all of the TrackMan stuff. They have Yakutech stuff in a lot of the ballparks too. Like I'm kind of surprised that they're not bringing him in for this. Now, maybe there's more to it, but it does seem like a pretty good hire, and it's the kind of thing that does put you a little bit ahead of other people, other, teams in this league. And judging off of how Glacier did last year, it wouldn't shock me to see them kind of improve. Obviously, they can only get better, but even still, the Pioneer League on any given year, it feels pretty open. Like Missoula's always there, but outside of Missoula, there seems to be some real fluctuation in who's at the top, who's on the bottom, right? So I wouldn't be surprised to see this really help out, especially for a Pioneer League that really pertains to younger players, guys just starting their career. To have that kind of advanced information for them, like that seems to be a really great boost to a young career, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, maybe he just loves Flathead Valley, Montana.
It could be. Kalispell is lovely that time of year,
That's what I hear. I cannot speak from personal experience, but that's what I hear.
You want to go out to Kalispell, Montana?
Not particularly.
But it's lovely that time of year.
That's what I hear. I don't know.
I feel like you should want to confirm this with some sort of journalistic integrity. Go confirm.
All right, cool. I'll find an airport to fly in Montana.
Now.
You let me know flights out of EWR and we could go.
Let's see. Newark. I'm gonna look it up right now because this is a short week anyway, so we got time. Newark to Kalispell. How do you spell Kalispell? There it is. Thank you, autofill.
Google response.
There's an airport in Kalispell. Round trip's $400. Although admittedly, $425 from Alaska Airlines. It's connecting. Admittedly, it's a day and 5 hours worth of flying, so that's right off the board. Paying the extra roughly $30 to cut that down to a United flight that's only 7 hours and 44 minutes seems like a good life investment. Yeah, so you absolutely can. May 1st, you fly out, you come back May 9th. It's a round trip. The cheap ones, the 477 flights, are unfortunately out of LaGuardia, so that's just not going to fly.
Oh, is that the deal breaker?
However, if you bump up to 592, there's a one stopover in Denver for about an hour and change. It flies out of Newark. It leaves at 7:44. You get in at 1:28, which seems like the time all of these flights get in at. I'm not going to lie to you. Every single one gets in at 1:28 p.m. So you could get in for first pitch, really. So
you get there for first pitch.
You absolutely can. Like, we got to go back to the Glacier site. We're going to take a look here. 2023 schedule. Let's see. No, they don't start play until May 23rd. Their first home game is May 30th.
What if the runway is like a literal glacier?
That sounds extremely dangerous and also like something I want to get involved in.
Yeah, it sounds like something I'd love to do.
Yeah, really. Oh, God, it gets more expensive. Like, looking at the Google Flights thing, most of these things are like $700+ to fly out to Montana. Like, with all due respect, Montana, I'm not paying $800 to fly there.
There's no flights that go to Montana. That's the point.
Are you disrespecting Montana?
No, I'm not disrespecting Montana. They got some great football that goes on out there, some great FCS football, but they also have the Glacier Range Riders too.
I mean, I don't know. It sounds like Montana slander to me. Oh, God, none of them fly out. I see the problem here, because Google changed from Newark to New York, and that's just not what we want. We want Newark explicitly. Okay.
The only airport we do not do. This is not a JFK stand podcast.
You're still annoyed with the mini bat, aren't you?
The what?
You're still annoyed about the mini bat.
I am annoyed about the mini bat, although that's a Vegas thing. Yeah, that was a Vegas
airport problem. But even still,
that was a TSA thing there.
I'd still blame JFK anyway.
What the hell am I going to do with a friggin' mini bat?
I don't know. You could just go crazy and start attacking people.
Yeah, just go
Make
on
the
there and
news.
just start whacking people with my Las Vegas Aviators mini bat.
If you do, I prefer if you could start screaming the show name out as you're doing it. We could use the free press.
That you know what they say, no press is bad press.
Exactly. So we'll have to figure that out. But I do appreciate one thing. It seems like because all the Pioneer League sites use the same exact template, they put all of the promotions on there, even the ones for visiting teams. So like on the Glacier site, it has the Great Falls promotions.
Huh.
Yeah. Which I gotta say, if you are in Great Falls, there are some good promotions opening weekend. There's a hat giveaway. There is the opening day one where they're giving away magnets and wooden nickels. I'm not really sure what you're going to do with the wooden nickel, but whatever. There's a t-shirt giveaway, a brewing night. There's some positives here. And then, actually, I'm only seeing visiting promotions. That's something that we want to address. But yeah, so there's options there. But in any case, so that's the last of these hirings. Now, let's say you wanted to go to the ballpark in Kalispell. You wanted to go to Flathead Field. Well, you can't go to Flathead Field because as we shift to stadium news, the naming rights got sold to Glacier Bank. So now it is Glacier Bank Park, and it's going to be that way until 2023. It's a 10-year deal. There's nothing really important about that, but I feel like you should know it, and we were tight on news this week, so now you do know it.
There you go.
So I would plan a trip to Glacier Bank Park if I was you. Maybe not if you're on the East Coast, though. It's going to run you about $700 a head for a round-trip ticket. So,
and that's the content people come to learn.
This is exactly what they're here for. They're here to learn about Kalispell, Montana, and the great things going on there with their baseball team.
Exactly.
So, likewise with Great Falls, we just mentioned them as well. They're getting a brand new playing surface. It's going to be a grass surface. This is new. Normally we see these, what do we call them? AstroTurf, but they're not AstroTurf. Just regular turf fields are normally what's being put in now. So you could do a lot of different events, which is really what I would think in Montana you'd want to put a field in that maybe isn't grass that dies in the winter. It could take a little bit more of a beating, but that's, that's a decision there. But one thing I found that was very interesting about this, I guess a little YouTube video that explains all of this. You know when was the last time they replaced this field?
When?
60 years ago.
60 years ago?
That's what the video said. Video said 60. News report said 60.
Sheesh.
So, bravo to that field staff, man. I mean, like, the grounds crew does a hell of a job. They managed to maintain this thing for 60 years. 6-0.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah, so good for the Voyagers. They're going to get a new field to play on, and I think it is almost certainly well-deserved. So, good for them.
For sure, yes. Yep,
they tore everything up, so it's just dirt right now, and they're going to put down a new turf there. Although I feel like that's the kind of thing you may want to... See, what's weird is normally you do grass and stuff in the fall because it grows better. But that's really just for lawns and not baseball fields. But I gotta imagine grass science is similar. But the winter's also harsher in Montana, so I'm not sure if you want to do that before the winter, and that'd be why they're doing it now.
I would have no idea, to be honest with you.
We need a grass scientist is what we need. First, we need an Audubon enthusiast from last week, which we never got. And now we need some sort of grass scientist. I don't know what the exact term would be. If anyone knows what the exact term for grass scientist would be, please contact the show. Or if you're a grass scientist, please contact the show. I'm very interested in this now. But I'll probably forget about it, so maybe I'm not that interested. In any case, Lexington's also doing ballpark upgrades too. They're going to be extending the netting around the stadium, putting a playground in, upgrading some viewing decks and some hospitality areas, and doing some new suites as well. If you want to see renderings of all that, linked in the show notes, you can take a look at it. It looks nice, but renderings always look nice. We'll see how it comes out, and we'll see if that helps attendance. But I'm sure our friend Ryan would have a lot of thoughts on why attendance in Lexington is up and down, to say the least.
I'm sure he would, but I think playground sounds fun though.
It could be like Rockland with their playground area, which definitely doesn't lead to any annoying nights there.
That's true.
So we'll see how that turns out. Last piece of serious stadium news. Go Market Park, the Charleston Dirty Birds ballpark, is now cashless. If you have a credit card, a debit card, or use mobile payments, like, paying with your phone or watch or something like that, you can do that. That'll be fine. That's pretty much anywhere you can buy stuff. So a team store, one of the little cart areas on the, on I guess the open areas on the, I'm blanking on the name of it, concourse. That's what I'm thinking of. Any of the stands on the concourse, concession areas, all that, you can use a card or a mobile payment device. If you have cash, you can exchange it for a cash card, which essentially is just a team ran debit card. So yeah, if you're kind of weird about that and don't want to use a card for whatever reason, there's your other option. I don't imagine this is going to deter anybody. But I imagine a couple people will complain about it because they think they're special. So yeah, there's that.
I haven't used cash in quite a long time, to be honest with you. So that doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I just don't like cash. It just feels like a worse version of a debit card, and a debit card's a worse version of a credit card. Yeah. So it just kind of defeats the purpose. I just want to know, can I use Google Pay here, or is that just not a thing?
We don't want to go down this road.
Are you sure? Because now I'm willing to admit I have upgraded from Google Pay. I do use Zelle now.
Thank God. Zelle's good, but
Google Pay is it's a non-starter for you.
I just never heard of anyone else who uses it.
McDonald's accepts Google Pay, Will.
I'm glad they accept Google Pay. I mean, I guess you'd be shit out of luck.
I know. Now I can get my McCrispy. Side of fries, maybe a Coke.
$1.79 for it.
Yeah. I just see that. The problem too is I don't really ever go to McDonald's either. Now, this is of course the content people are here for, but yeah, I just felt like it was important to say now that I have Zelle, and that's the only reason I have it is because I went out the other day and I need to pay my one friend back. And I was like, I can either PayPal you this money, or next time I see you, I can give you cash. And he's like, do you have Zelle? I'm like, no, I don't really have it. He's like, check the TD app. See, maybe if you could just do it through that. I was like, okay. And I was like, hey, look, it's actually in the TD app. Let me see how much would work if we go into setting this up. And I was like,
put in like a Zelle app. It's like right on the TD Bank app.
See, this is information I didn't know until they updated the TD app. And I haven't checked that app for a while, mainly because I just haven't really needed to. So, yeah. And I also thought like it would require a lot of permissions and stuff. It wouldn't just be like 3 clicks. So,
yeah, I mean, I think that, it's not Venmo, but it's a start.
It's a start. Like I said, we're slowly catching up here. So I hope I could use either Google Pay, PayPal, or I guess now Zelle at Go Mart Park. So that's all there is there. And
there you go.
Yeah, we got a couple other things here, which one thing I just wanted to mention. You see the April Fool's prank or joke that York made with the Ferris wheel?
Did they announce they were putting in a Ferris wheel?
Yes, they did, in their parking lot. And all I was thinking was, hey, Somerset.
Oh, yeah.
Remember when they announced that?
I remember when they said that. We'll see if that happens.
I really hope it doesn't. It just looked really stupid.
Probably, yeah.
Plus, like, where are you going to put that? Like, where are you going to put it where it's not just obnoxiously stupid? Plus, like, who wants to ride a Ferris wheel where your view is like a ballpark, a shopping center with a Home Depot and a Target, and 287? Like, just imagine going up. Oh, it's a beautiful sunny day. Hey, look at all the tractor trailers on 287. Go right back down.
I can see South Boundbrook from here.
It's great. Hey, look, I can see that guy that broke down over there.
I can see the Quick Check on Main Street. Ooh.
It's just it's so beautiful this time of year. Hey, look, that guy's picking up all his mulch for the season. Like, come on. Like, it would be cool if there's a baseball game going on, but I gotta imagine they're not running it during a baseball game. And even then, the novelty wears off very quickly.
Yeah, probably not.
But yeah, it would be kind of fun though, if for nothing else. But yeah, so York was joking about that. They were like, the London Eyes are inspiration. I'm thinking, you sure it's not the team that was in the league you were in that's like 4 hours up the road? That wasn't your inspiration?
Yeah, exactly.
But like, whatever there. Only little bit of news that we have left to add for the week. Gastonia moved up their tryout to 4/12, so this upcoming Wednesday. So if you're registered for that, it just got moved. You should have got an email about it. So it's no longer going to be this past week or whatever the prior date was. It's now the 12th. Figure I should just mention it. That date, that whole tryout is already full, so we're not going to bother adding that to the tryout list. But just if you're already registered, feel like you should know it. Give you another chance to find that information out. Likewise, Frederick also announced a tryout that is on the 22nd of the month. So that is not next Saturday, but the Saturday after that. So be aware of that. If you want to get involved with it, it is at the Frederick ballpark, the one the Keys play out of. Cost is $100, starts at 10. Check-in is at 10, I should say. The tryout itself starts at 11. So be aware of that. And if you're interested, there you go. It's a tryout. Not much else to say. Just feel like we should make you aware of it. We're adding that one as well as the Florence and the Lexington one that we mentioned last week onto the actual list. I'm a little bit behind on it. It's been a busy week. We're going to get that updated though. It should be all good to go by the time this comes out. If not, by the time it comes out, certainly by Sunday. So there you go.
It's a tryout.
It's a tryout. I feel like we need to make t-shirts that say it's a tryout. But yeah, so that's all we really got for the week. A bit of a shorter week, but there really wasn't too much going on here. It's always the call before the storm when we kind of get into these, I guess, early April weeks because we see baseball coming, but it's not quite there yet. So on that note, I guess we'll go to the plugs and then we'll get out of here. If you want to follow the show, you can do so on Twitter at Indy Ball Pod. You can do so on Instagram at ALPB_news and at Indy Ball Report. You can find show notes and with the links to everything we discussed today, as well as articles, that tryout sheet I just mentioned, and much, much more, available on the website, indyballreport.com. And you can find the show wherever you find podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, all the major ones, and then a lot of the minor ones as well. So be sure to rate and review if you can, and don't forget to subscribe to not miss any episodes there. With that said, do we have anything else left to add this week?
NBA playoffs start next week. Let's go Celtics. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, right.
This is gonna be the year they win the championship.
I only got like two things to add. I don't really have much of a comment for basketball, but one, I just realized that this is episode 213. Like, I know I said that when we first came on, but I just realized it. And that was the section that me and my dad had season tickets in at the Garden the one year we did. So that's pretty cool. Like to point that out. And two, did you see this morning that Aaron Altier signed with Tri-City?
I did not.
Yeah, Aaron Altier signed in Tri-City.
Did he get cut from the KBO?
Apparently so. And what's funny is they teased this last night. They teased the major and roster thing. We're like, we're going to announce at 9. Do you believe it? And I tweeted out, like, I don't believe it because we don't get lucky with things like this. They always announce things once we're done recording.
Wow, he didn't even play last year.
Really? He didn't play at all?
No. Like, he had 2 good years in the KBO and then just didn't play last year. No. So I don't know what happened. I mean, it's funny because, it's kind of crazy because, like, Altair was a legit prospect when he was coming up.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, that's a great signing for them, though. I mean, an excellent signing.
Yeah. And, like, what's funny about Altair is back in 2019, I remember I did, like, 1 week where I just pumped out a bunch of either videos, articles, or extra shows. It was, like, August because it was right after, took, like, a month off for no real reason whatsoever. So I was like, let me pump out a bunch of content that may help try to get people back. So one of the pieces was 5 guys you may see in the Atlantic League in 2022 or 2020, I guess it would be.
Yes, I remember
that. The first player listed is Aaron Altier.
You're close.
I know. So I tweeted that out earlier today when I woke up and I was going through Twitter to see what news came out. I saw that. I was like, I was kind of right. I've got the wrong league and I got the wrong year. but I still got the player right. It was just a matter of time. So I'm waiting on the rest of them to come home to roost, because now I'm 1 for 5. Now I'm batting 200. Now I can stay in the lineup. So we just got to figure out who else is going to come over. One more, and I'm in the Hall of Fame, 2 for 5, man.
Love that.
Yeah, so I saw that. I was really happy, really excited. So that's just, I just wanted to point that out too. But yeah, Aaron Altier is a really nice addition. Pete's building himself a team. He also added Dwayne Marshall too, who was a really good pitcher in Skylands last year. So I'm really kind of high on Tri-City. I'm looking forward to that preview.
Look, Tri-City knows what's at stake for them this year.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot. They got it. It's got to be the year.
Yeah, it has to be, especially for, and I can't believe I can say this, friend of the show, Pete and Cavilla.
That's pretty cool.
I know, isn't that cool? I just like.
That was a great interview.
I know, it really was. People should go back and listen to that interview.
They should.
Yeah, beginning of the year. Like, you just got to go back like about 10 episodes, and it's there. I think we're good now. I think we got everything taken care of.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So then, as every week, until next time, don't forget to play ball.